Welcome to the How to Find and Keep a Gay Man podcast. I'm Matt Bays, your host, with Matt Heinker, your co-host. And we're here to provide bitchy wisdom for the gay man looking for love. There are a lot of gay men out there looking for a meaningful love experience, and we are here to help. You can follow How to Find and Keep a Gay Man on Instagram and TikTok, where you'll find all sorts of bitchy wisdom about what it's going to take to find and keep a gay man. Welcome. We're glad you're here.
What a cute top you have on. Is there another one that you've cut?
Oh yes, honey, cut the sleeves off it. I just felt so contained.
Who needs sleeves with gowns like this, honey?
Listen, it's August.
Yes.
Nobody wears sleeves in August.
How's your week been, my dear?
It has been a good week. Going to the pool, doing work. It's been pretty flexible. And we are getting ready to go away, which I don't think we've told the children.
Tell our listeners about this epic odyssey you're about to take with your man. Tell us about it. It's crazy.
Well, my husband has worked hard for a lot of years, and his job recently, he retired forever, but just switching things up, and has this time. And so we are going to go on a trip to Southeast Asia and some other places we're unsure as to how long. It could be anywhere from 3 to 5 months.
She's going to Capri and she's not coming back.
She's starting in Florence, Italy, and then she is going to Croatia. And then I know people are like, this is not Southeast Asia.
Listen, you're going to Croatia on the catamaran.
On the
which
catamaran.
Sounds so glamorous. I love it.
Yes, it is. I'm sure there will be music playing in the background the whole time. And then we are dropping one of our children in Japan, who's going to language school for a bit. And then we're going to visit Tokyo for a little while and then head to Southeast Asia. And it's pretty open-ended. We don't know exactly where we're staying, but we're doing Laos, Vietnam, possibly the Philippines, Cambodia, where I am absolutely sure that if you intend to eat, you have to wait until they drop your food from the sky.
Are you allowed to be gay in the Philippines? Don't you get in trouble for that there?
Oh, we've looked up all the places.
Okay.
So we're not going anywhere where we shouldn't go. Isn't that strange that you even have to think about that?
It is, I tell you
but
what.
Listen, you do. We are not going to North Korea, honey.
No.
They're not friends of the gays.
Well, listen, we're so excited for you. I can't wait for the stories.
Thank you. Thank you. I know it'll be fun. So some of these podcasts may be happening in different parts of the world.
Yeah.
Which is kind of exciting. Crazy.
How to Find and Keep a Gay Man live from Laos.
Honey, let's find out how the gay men do it abroad. Oh, my God. In prep for this, which today we are going to be talking about.
Balancing independence and togetherness. Avoiding codependency.
At some point, let's define codependency, because what people often think it means is not. But let me tell you this. As I was prepping for this, I specifically reached out to these two gay pool boys, Cody and John. They met when they were 16. They're both dancers and they have a dance studio.
They've been together since they were 16?
From what I understand, they dated off and on, or they always had some form of a dating relationship. They went to the same college because it was I think an art school, and have always sort of been together. They're in.
How old are they now?
I'm guessing early 30s, 32, 34.
Wow. We're approaching 20 years together at this young age. That's awesome.
I think they've been together for 6. They've been married for 9. These boys have a very special relationship. I mean that. There is a level of comfort that I see within them that reminds me of what you and Ty have, what Chris and I have. They nearly said the words that you always say, which is, whatever we're doing, we're having fun.
Yeah.
And that is kind of what they said. They just kind of have a good time together and work together. They're together a lot because of their jobs.
Work together. Yeah. That's a lot.
Yeah. But on the togetherness stuff, they're sort of balanced in a way like Chris and I are, where they spend a shit ton of time together, but one of them could sort of be there 24/7, which is me, you know,
which is tight.
And
yeah.
but his partner is pretty much fine with that. And they just very easily can slip into hey, I'm going to go to the gym, or hey, I'm going to go take a bath. There's sort of language that they've built for, like, I just want a minute by myself. There's not any sort of turmoil over this. It works very easily for them, which I thought was interesting, because part of what we're talking about today with togetherness and independence is every relationship's different. Some people just need more space.
Yes.
And a partner has to honor it. And then that partner also has to recognize that somebody else needs more together time. I am of the belief that if you are looking for a partner, find somebody who is not so opposite from you in that it's going to create trouble and dissonance, you know?
I do know. I think that the reality is, though, that particularly in this area, it's pretty easy to be in different places. I think inevitably someone who's a little bit more independent attracts someone that's a little bit more, needs more attention. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Two independent lone wolves, you don't see them in a relationship a lot.
But maybe, am I wrong? I just feel like that could work so well because they both value their independence and their time away, and then can come back together.
You know, I don't disagree. I think it makes way more sense. And if you're somebody that like wants to be together 24/7 and you both are wired like that, you know, logically that would seem like it would make sense, but I don't see it out in nature very often. I don't know if you do. It seems like opposites attract. There's always one person that's a little bit more intense, one that's a little more chill.
What I'm saying is close the gap a little bit so that it's not such a disparity between it. Now, the problem with Chris and I is we spend so much time together that when he dies, I'm just going to just shove me in. If you're behind me at the funeral, just shove me in the hole with him. Because I'm done. I'm out at that point.
Okay. Well, we'll discuss that as we get into the material of this podcast today.
So I just didn't want there to be such disparity. So what I did recognize in Chris early on is he's very social, has a lot of friends, loves to be out and about. And he's actually more social than I am. And I'm fucking social.
Yes. Yes.
At any rate, shout out to John and Cody for being so freaking cool. These boys, they have a very high comfort level with one another and kind of a gorgeous relationship.
And it seems to be connected.
Yes, absolutely.
So how do you want to kick this off? Define codependency first.
Here's my understanding of codependence. I always thought it was the needy person. It's not. The needy person is just the needy person. Codependence is the person who enables the needy person. If you've got an alcoholic, it's somebody who will not set boundaries and will let somebody suck off of them and take from them and use them and won't call them on the carpet for it because they're codependent. They need that person to need them. I always thought it was the reverse.
Well, I think it goes both ways. I mean, also, PsychCentral.com says that codependency is someone that feels like they can't separate their identity from their partners. Being codependent describes a person who frequently compromises their wants and needs to support a loved one, sometimes through experiencing addiction. That was an example that you used. Yeah.
Of course. And what I like about that definition is it's not based on, so often we use that word just as they're so codependent. And what we're almost trying to exchange the word with needy. They're so needy. Well, it's not just that. It can be the need, but it is also the person who, what you just said at the end, sacrifices what they want, what they need, who they are for the other person. So a lot of times it's caretakers, people who are I have codependent tendencies, you know, and then I came across this person who doesn't need me to take care of them. And I found myself not knowing what to do with myself, twiddling my thumbs in this relationship. Like, what do I have to offer them?
I think that's a really interesting point. It goes both ways, doesn't it? The person that they know the person needs them and they get something from knowing that. Mm-hmm. And then the other person is they need them or they're not okay, or they don't have don't feel like they have an identity separate from them. So that's where codependency creeps up. What does it look like in relationships? This same website, psychcentral.com, gave a few examples I thought were interesting. So codependency in a relationship can look like keeping quiet to avoid arguments. Volunteering to sacrifice your wants and needs for your partners excessively, feeling rejected when your partner does things or wants to do things without you, and then being unable to say no in general. And it goes on to say that codependency, and I thought this was an interesting point as well, it's not a personal choice. It's a learned behavior. So it's the result of trauma. It's the result of things that have happened in your past. And it usually comes down to a lack of self-esteem, self-worth,
Yeah.
So how do we get past those things? It was funny. The first point they had was using positive self-talk. So I've talked about a dialogue of self-love, and quite a bit in past podcasts, writing down your positive traits. Third, putting a list of your positive qualities where you can see them every day. So I'm with my husband, Ty. I am kind of the more independent one who needs space and really kind of needs to do his own thing sometimes. He would prefer that we're together. He laughs and says he likes the 90-10 rule. We're together 90% of the time. But one of the things that helps him fight against codependent tendencies is this putting a list of your positive qualities where you can see them. So he's got this little journal, and I literally write affirmations in it for him to read. I wrote some down today so he can be reminded of who he is and what's true in our relationship, and that he can securely attach to me. So I think that's a really cool thing that we've been able to start in helping support him through some of those things.
I love that. That's tending to your garden.
Yes.
Yeah. First things first, relationship first. I really like that. So I've had to overcome a lot in my life because of my childhood. So codependence. And then as I was doing research for this independence and togetherness, I saw that whole attachment style. Many of us have heard of that.
Yeah.
I want to talk about those a little bit. They have 4. Some people say 3, but they have 4 listed, and they are secure. And secure is the healthy one. It's the one that we're all aiming for. And then the other ones are avoidant, anxious, and disorganized, which would all be, captured inside the heading of insecure attachment styles.
Exactly.
Now, I had understood, Matt, that your attachment style just was what it was and that it couldn't be changed. I don't know why I had that in my head, but it's just not accurate.
We all can get to a secure attachment with work.
Yes. So it's important to know what our attachment style is. And so I took the test at the end, and I was borderline in between anxious and secure. Some of the anxious stuff was just not me. Like if there were 10 things listed, 7 of them had nothing to do with me and 3 did. But there was a time when 8 out of 10 of those would have been right for me.
I think that's a good point. So over time, as we do our work and we mature, we age. We talked about the benefits of aging last week. Some of those bad things can fall off as we get to know who we are better. And also as our self-worth improves, our self-esteem, the way that we view ourselves. So it's kind of funny, for whatever reason, I've always been a pretty solidly secure attachment. I believe what people say to me. I don't question it. If I find someone that I love, I connect to them and don't think much about it. My husband is a pretty solid anxious attachment style. So that's one of the things that we do to help move him down the road. I just mentioned the list of, affirmations. There's a process there in helping your partner to learn what is true, that you are for him, that you are there, that you're not going to leave, that you deeply love him, you're satisfied with him, and that he's safe with you, and that he's a person of worth and value with a completely separate identity outside of this relationship. And that also needs to be nurtured. You come to the relationship ideally as 2 whole people on your own.
Yeah. My therapist, when I was running this past her, she talked about how it's great for an anxiously attached person to be connected to a securely attached person, because over time, if they watch that person enough, they're going to begin to build trust and can let those things go. Now, you got to put your back into it. But I appreciate being with a securely attached person. I have in my life, and in prayer time, we'll uncover a little bit of that, but there are times in my life where I've been very securely attached, and then other times where I have not. And sometimes that comes about because of trauma, as you mentioned earlier. But should we walk through these attachment styles, let people know what they are? Okay, so secure attachment style, it's defined by an ability to build healthy, long-lasting relationships. It's the result of feeling secure with your caregivers from childhood. So that's where it begins, that you can ask for reassurance or validation without punishment. And ultimately, you felt safe, understood, comforted, all of those things that we're shooting for when we're parenting children. Signs of secure attachment style, or the healthiest one, is being able to regulate your emotions, as you already mentioned, trusting others, effective communication skills, that you seek emotional support, you're comfortable being alone, you're comfortable in close relationships, you're able to self-reflect in your partnerships, easy to connect with, manage conflict well, high self-esteem, and emotionally available. That's the list that I read. And I was like, oh, I'm better off than I thought I was going to be.
Yeah. And if you didn't grow up in an environment where those things were just given to you, then you have to find them later in life.
The tests that I found, some of the questions I had to think back to my childhood and how I was around other children or teachers, adults, what I internally felt, which was always in trouble. Before I even knew them, I was in trouble. Now that's where some of that shit comes up, and you have to work through it when you first start connecting with people in romantic relationships. Okay. So the avoidant attachment style is defined by failures to build long-term relationships with others due to an inability to engage in physical and emotional intimacy. As a result, when you're a child, you learn to adopt a strong sense of independence so that you don't have to rely on anyone else for care support because they're not going to show up. The need for emotional intimacy is simply lacking in this type of individual. So romantic relationships are not able to reach any level of depth, is what one of the articles said.
Avoidance put up a wall. You can only get so far. They're not going to be vulnerable with you, and they're not going to receive your vulnerability very well. So that's a red flag when you're with an avoidant person when you experience those types of things.
Stonewallers.
Uh-oh.
They're avoidance.
Yeah. And then the opposite side of that coin, the direct opposite, is the anxious.
Anxious. Hello, I'm home. And this is another type of insecure attachment characterized by fear of rejection, fear of abandonment, depending on a partner for validation and emotional regulation, and codependent tendencies. So the signs are clingy, highly sensitive to criticism, real or perceived, needing approval from others. This is where I was like, motherfucker.
I know.
Jealous tendencies, difficulty being alone, low self-esteem, feeling unworthy of love, intense fear of rejection, significant fear of abandonment, and difficulty trusting others. So this made me sad for those who are anxious attachers. They often blame themselves for challenges in the relationship, can exhibit frequent and intense jealousy or distrust due to poor self-esteem. Ultimately, there's a deep-rooted fear of being abandoned, rejected, or alone.
And for the partner of someone who is a classic anxious attachment style, you have to understand what you do to either help support them away from those feelings, or what do you do without even thinking about it sometimes that triggers those feelings of them believing that they're not enough, that they're not safe, that they could be abandoned in any minute. It's really important that I think you can see your partner through a much better lens when you understand what kind of attachment style they are. And it really can inform your posture towards them to help support them in the way that they need.
100%. And communication is key. What I always have felt is, and I've said it before, if I'm not the problem, then there is no solution. Like my problem is mine. But here's what I appreciate about my husband, Chris, is he knows I'm anxiously attached, and that's a struggle for me at times. And he steps in almost without even asking. He steps in and looks for ways to, like you said, you have a journal, you're writing things down to tie.
Yeah.
I appreciate that kind of help and that kind of husbandry, whatever you want to call it, where they're not like, it's your fucking problem, deal with it. But instead are like, what can I do? I know that this is a struggle for them. So I'm going to, while I'm away for 3 days, I'm going to send them a text message in the middle of the day just to remind them that I'm thinking of them. Now it's not their job to get you out of this, right?
Yeah.
But I like the teamwork of helping each other.
Absolutely. And then conversely, the securely attached husband cannot allow himself to feel like he's not doing enough, or take it personally that your partner is worried that you're going to leave them, or worried that they're not enough. I think in the beginning, when I didn't really understand his attachment style, I'm like, why would you be worried about that? Have I not proven myself? Do I not deserve more trust than that? And it really had nothing to do with my behavior. What I realized is that it had everything to do with understanding that this is how he was wired, and it was going to take time to reassure him in different ways that he didn't need to worry about these things anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
I can't solve somebody else's problem. What you've just said is really important, because if you go down that road, we always would say in the recovery programs, that I can't want it more than you want it.
Look for ways to support each other on the path to a secure attachment style, but don't dwell on how to fix the other's problem. It's their journey ultimately. Can't fix it for somebody else.
Right. Good. Love it.
Yeah.
The last one that they have is disorganized. The most common causes of disorganized attachment style are childhood trauma, neglect or abuse, fear of their parents. And it is defined as having extremely inconsistent behavior and difficulty trusting others. So the signs are fear of rejection. Some of the other ones that we've already mentioned: inability to regulate emotions, contradictory behaviors, high levels of anxiety, difficulty trusting others, and signs of both avoidant and anxious attachment styles.
I've got a dear friend who's a disorganized attachment style, and it is painful to watch, because he's like Jesus and he loves them all, can't pick one. It's with this boy one day, it's with that the other. Then we're back to scratch, worried that we're going to be alone forever while we've just rejected 6 people in the last 2 months. It's crazy. For me, probably the most chaotic one, as I look at people in my life that are under these categories, the fearful, disorganized one is definitely the most chaotic. And I think it's really important, if you're in that bucket, to be able to identify it.
And in the disorganized one is where a lot of the personality illnesses come from. They fear love. So they love really, really big, and they want it so bad, but then they shove you away at the same time. It's not something that cannot be fixed. It can be fixed.
As we all move down the road towards secure attachment, avoiding codependency, what are best practices in getting there? You mentioned communication earlier. Practicing assertive communication is key in avoiding codependence and getting to a better, more secure attachment style. Using I statements, example, I feel a certain whatever, being clear and direct, being able to clearly explain your thoughts. I feel this way because, maintaining eye contact in these discussions, and being willing to keep up the discussion until a mutually agreed upon solution is found. I think that's key. So one thing that I did not completely understand until I was, pretty far down the road in this relationship with my husband, we were going to have to talk about this all the time, because it's a difficult thing to unravel and move forward better and different, and so we have to together understand what we're going to do to improve this, and so it's a lot of communication. In this moment, I feel this way. This is why. Can you hear that? Tell me what's true. Remind me of what's true. We've got like patterns that we practice now to help lead us away from those difficult places. And you have to be willing to love and respect and reach for your partner enough to have really clear, honest communication continually. We're never not looking for a solution together, if that makes sense. And I think the other part of that is also building your identity as a person. Like I said earlier, coming to the relationship as a whole person yourself. It's hard for him to be at home when I'm not here. And so, like Chris, I send the texts, I do the calls and all those types of things. But I also say, think about things that interest you. What is a way that you can care for yourself in this time that you have alone? What is a way that you can enjoy this time and do something that just you want to do? Independent projects you might enjoy, friends you can connect with, separate from me, building your own identity, caring for yourself, and enjoying your life apart from your partner. Developing practices that help you do that, I think, build self-esteem and are an important part of that. Yeah. What do you think about
honey,
that?
We're just laying on the couch waiting for you to get home.
Sometimes that's the case. And I'll call him and be like, go get a massage, honey. Yes. Go have coffee with Brian, honey. Come on. Enjoy
and he's
yourself.
Like, get here if you can. Get here now. Yeah. Chris has gone away, several times where he's had to be gone 2 days at a time or 3 days at a time. And I will in advance think about What am I going to do? Maybe I'll go to Indy and visit some friends, or
Sure.
here are the things that I can be working on during the day. The funny thing is when I go away, because when you're the one that goes away, you got people you're chit-chatting with and having dinners with and doing all the things with, right? But when I've gone away and Chris has been home, he's calling, what are you doing?
Oh my.
I'm like, I'm meeting with people and having meetings. What are you doing? Are you home bored? Now you know how it feels, how you like it.
Jesus. When I'm alone, I'm like, I'm gonna sit here and listen to the silence and look at Architectural Digest and love on myself, listen to Mariah's greatest hits, and do whatever the fuck I want to do.
Yeah. But you know what? There's a difference when you have 6 children.
That's true.
I
Yeah.
remember the days where a trip to Target was like, oh, I feel like I'm on vacation. all by myself, getting groceries with no children.
Oh
This
my
is
God.
awesome. Yeah, it's different.
Well, as I was reading about this stuff, Dr. Courtney Warren said, I thought this was good. Maintain a life and identity apart from your lover. Remember that you can meet your own needs and have a life apart from them. I think that is a tall order for an anxious attachment style at times, but I really think that sounds healthy. That sounds like they're living in rivers of self-love, honey.
Yeah.
Understanding that you're a whole person on your own. I think everybody needs that.
Yeah.
So,
well, and I've said before, we throw around so many categories these days. They're codependent, or they're a narcissist, or they're, everybody's trying to label or define either themselves or others. And I wanted a relationship. I don't enjoy being alone. I don't feel bad about it. I spent a lot of time feeling bad about that. Like, what's wrong with me if I don't want to be alone? Well, because I don't want to fucking be alone. I'm made for connection. I felt bad about that for a while. Like it meant something bad about me. Well, it's just that
I think
I'm a
if
connector.
you're more of an extroverted social person, I've got a friend a dear friend of mine, we joke that he likes to be alone 20 minutes at a time once every 3 months. Like he's just outrageously social. My middle daughter, Olivia's like that. Her teacher's like, she thinks that class is a cocktail party. Like she doesn't ever want to be alone, ever not hanging out with people. So like, I think that you're wired that way and it is what it is. But I do still maintain that everyone needs to be able to sit with themselves and be at home inside themselves. That's the holy grail for everybody.
I should probably just share. There was a time in my life where I was much better at that than I am right now. I went through a breakup a few years ago, and the relationship was great right up until it wasn't. And when it wasn't, it got real sideways. And out of that, for me, came this fear of rejection, abandonment, and being alone. I almost couldn't sit with myself. I almost couldn't stand it. And I had not experienced that before. So this extrovert did not always have this struggle, but out of that relationship and into my new one, I carried something new where I found myself struggling to trust, which had not been a problem for me in the past. Struggling to trust Chris, who's about as trustworthy as they come.
Exactly.
And so this is something that confused me. At first, I thought, what is happening here? And I took my own advice, get a damn therapist, got a therapist here because I had moved and started exploring all of that. And it has been about a 2-year journey of managing something. So it hasn't eaten my lunch all the time, but it's something that I am managing. And that's what I was saying, where we will go through times where things will happen to us and it will change the game for us. So it took me back like 30 years to in my early 20s where I couldn't sit with myself alone. But I was like, what the fuck? I've done this work already. But something came along that was traumatic to me, losing a very important relationship. And it stirred all of that up. And I had to figure out how to manage it all over again.
And you had to figure out how to manage this so you did not drive your partner away.
Listen, I'm very well aware at 52 years old, my problems are not Chris's problems. And I will not set those at his doorstep and expect him, because I don't want to twist his arm into anything that's dysfunctional, because that's just going to mean our relationship is getting that way. I don't want any part of that. I've done that before.
That's proud of you, babe. That's good. That's
awesome. You know what I'm saying? So
I do.
I might feel it, but here's what that looks like. Me looking at Chris and saying, I hate this, but I'm dealing with some insecurity regarding you. And some jealousies regarding you. You're not doing anything wrong, but could you just reassure me? And he's like, he just puts a smile on his face, puts his arms around me and says, what is it you need to hear? Do you know how much I love you? Do you know how much I respect you?
Yeah.
Do you know who I am now with you? And
Yeah.
I'm just like
And you
letting
know
it
what?
all in.
He's able to receive that because you communicated appropriately to him what you were feeling and didn't make him feel like it was his fault. I think that's key. So because you're in therapy, you understand that you are learning to bring those insecurities to him in a respectful way, in healthy patterns to actually deal with them and move forward. I think that's crucial. You didn't act out. I think that's a really important part. We are all, as we've talked about the arc of all the podcasts we've done, since we started, getting a damn therapist and doing your work. It's really about understanding not only your part in how to be a good partner, fix problems, whatever, but in understanding the healthiest ways to deal with them. It's not going to happen on its own. So kudos to you for understanding that those feelings were brought up from the past and they needed to be dealt with in a healthy way. So it didn't negatively affect your relationship. You found you want to keep your gay man. This is part of keeping them,
Yeah. Well, and
Yeah.
Matt, how you go through like you're redoing your health. You start working out, you eat better, you get yourself into good shape, and then you get to a place where you're like going to maintain. It doesn't require as much work. That's where I am with this. I've had unhealthy in the past, and I've got this healthy, wonderful relationship, and you bet your ass I'm going to tend to it. I'm not going to let it get nasty. So when I sense this stuff is going on, I get to work on it, and I work on me.
So as we continue to heal our attachment styles, and we all are walking down the road to securely attach together.
Yes.
How do we balance together versus separate? What are the ways that we practically do that?
I'm glad you asked. And I don't know. I think you have to assess, first of all, what kind of couple are we? How much time do I need? How much time does Chris need? I think that's part of it because every relationship's going to be different. But then how do we get there within our relationship? I know you've got something to say about that.
Yeah. Number one is communicate openly. So we've talked ad nauseum about communication. Communication is key. Respectful communication. I think that's really important. And number two, schedule time for both. So in order to maintain a healthy balance between independence and togetherness, it's important to take time for both. This might mean setting aside specific days that one person needs for alone time. So your friend said, I'm going to go work out. I need to go take a bath. They have like keywords that they use to signal they need a block of time alone. That's good. Setting aside specific time to be alone, as well as carving out time for dates or shared activities. So the key is to be intentional about your time and make sure that neither partner feels neglected or left out. So I am a very, very independent person. And I really didn't know the degree to which until this relationship. It's been interesting to learn this. Like, I really love to do things completely by myself with earpods in. And so for me to care for myself, I need time to do that. I need to shop with earpods in. I need to work out by myself. Sometimes I need to go listen to music and look at design magazines. I need time alone. With my partner, who really doesn't need even a fraction of what I do, we have to talk to each other about what the balance looks like. And so again, it comes down to communication, but also it being intentional about scheduling time for both people's needs.
Yeah.
And I think you and Chris probably do that as well. Or maybe he doesn't need a lot of time alone. Would you say, even though he's a securely attached person, he doesn't need a lot of alone time?
No.
Okay. Well,
He
God
doesn't.
bless both of you.
He doesn't, and I don't. It's funny because I'm a writer. So that alone time I get when I'm writing.
Yeah.
And I enjoy it. But I'd be happy as a clam to be alone with him sitting right there. Do you know what I'm saying? I could do my work for 5 hours sitting here and not say a word to you, but I do like looking over and knowing you're sitting right there in that green chair. That's why I say when I get old, I'm like, if everybody's gone, I'm going to Golden Girl it up. I'm going to find my besties and be like, let's move in together and have some fun.
You and Ty are play cousins. I'll tell you what, you play cousins. You're the same.
But you do have to know, how's this other person wired? What works for them and what doesn't?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The other parts were encourage your partner's independence. So while it's important to spend time together as a couple, it's equally important to support each other's individual interests and passions. Chris loves to mountain bike. You're a buddy and you mountain bike with him sometimes, but you don't want to take that passion and interest away from him. You know it's important to him. So you encourage him to do that. I think that's healthy. Yeah. So encourage your partner or spouse to pursue hobbies or activities that they enjoy, even if it means spending time apart. This helps both partners maintain a sense of identity and independence within the relationship. I think that's good. And then 4, it says find shared interests. So in addition to supporting each other's individual interests, it's important to find things that you both enjoy. So Ty and I, our ESPN is drag. We love drag. That's so cliche. All the gays love drag, but we like to travel to different parts of the country together and watch good drag. We watch all the RuPaul seasons, even the international ones. It's just kind of our tea time together.
Yeah.
This really fun rhythm that we enjoy. And then ultimately, the article ends with saying, be respectful of each other's boundaries, understanding what each other needs, and always work on practicing what good compromise looks like. You and Chris are unique in that he's a securely attached individual in the relationship, but doesn't need a lot of alone time. That makes you guys super compatible. That's great. I think most couples have a little bit more distance between those two things. So they have to really talk about what compromise looks like. How do you feel cared for, seen? How do you get enough time with me, enough of my attention? It's Friday. For every Friday night is date night. Ty and I are going to go on a date and we're going to be together. And, we've got these patterns in place that help us stay connected. Then tomorrow, I'm going to take some time to be by myself. And I think as long as both are clear on what those patterns look like, and one doesn't feel neglected or conversely smothered in those patterns, you're getting to a good place, but it's got to be worked out together.
Yeah, I hear that. And I think most people listening understand that. It's putting it into practice when it's time. And I liked what you said about make sure that the communication is
respectful.
Yeah, that it's respectful.
You're like, hey, I need a little bit more time with you. Can we connect this weekend? What is it that you need? Ask each other that question. It's always coming from a place of respect. And that is the ground that can breed really good communication progress forward. We talked about the bids for attention a few weeks ago. And a lot of bids are missed when they're packaged incorrectly, packaged in negativity. This is ultimately a bid for attention. Make sure it's packaged in positivity and respect. It's going to help you guys move forward better. Yeah.
So for me, or people like me who might be anxiously or avoidant attached, we know when we feel it. So if he's going away and I feel in my heart, any sense of something's wrong. And that something wrong is not with him. It's inside me. I have to figure what that is and either renegotiate or address myself first and then respectfully have a conversation if it's something that we need to do. What would somebody who is more of an avoidant, who is pushing someone away, and it's like, you're smothering me, but maybe it's not actually smothering. They're just like, I just want to have a date night. What do they need to do?
So I think if you're an avoidant, it's harder for you to connect emotionally with your partner's needs. So on your path to becoming more secure, you need to do a lot of work to listen to your partner, to hear what they're saying, to believe them when they're telling you what they need and to reach for it. So if they need a date night, give them a date night. Also, you need to be free in that same conversation to express what you need.
Some of this shit is hard work, isn't it?
It's all hard work. That absolutely is.
But here's what we've maintained from the beginning. This shit doesn't have to be that hard. So I think selfishly it can become hard because we want what we want and we want to hold on tightly to it. We don't want to give if we don't want to give. And if we're in our dysfunctional spot, it's even harder.
Oh, for sure.
Right. So we have to keep it simple.
Mm-hmm.
If something's wrong.
Yeah.
In you can feel it. This does not come from a healthy place. A few weeks ago, we had dinner with a bunch of people, and it was all Chris's people, his work people. And he wanted me to go with them. And I said, okay, I wasn't sure if I wanted to go. And I went. And when we got together, he ended up going down while we were sitting together and sat at the other end of the table. So for 3 hours at this meeting, I was sitting with people I didn't really know well. I wasn't happy about it, that he made that decision for us, right?
Yeah.
I wasn't fucked up inside over it. I know what that feels like. I didn't feel rejected or abandoned in a bad way. He was just going down there to sit with other people and talk with them, but he did it without talking to me. We didn't make that decision together. He would not have cared one bit if I had done that to him. But we've also talked about it's not always equitable in a relationship. Needs are different.
Yeah.
So I just said on the way home, don't you ever do that to me again. No, I didn't say it like that. But I was like, I would have liked to have made that decision together if we were going to sit apart. And he was like, oh, I'm sorry. He like almost overly apologized. I was like, oh, I'm fine. I'm totally good. I'm just letting you know for the future, that's a decision I would make. Like that is a conversation that was in a healthy place. It wasn't like, why did you this or why did you?
Okay.
It wasn't
That's a good
accusatory.
point. I want to address two things along those lines. Number one, you did not come at him, even though it bothered you and you realized that. You did not come at him with negative energy. You did not come with him with disrespect. You didn't say, I can't believe you set me at the end of the table and I didn't know those people just left me there to dry all night. No, that was not the posture you had.
But pause.
You said it respectfully.
Pause. I did, but pause for 1 second because I gave myself 120 seconds in the bathroom to be pissed. I went to the bathroom and I was pissed.
Okay.
Mostly because I didn't want to sit with these people that I didn't know. And then I said to myself, you got 120 seconds to be pissed. And then Matt Bays, you go back out there, you sit your ass down and you ask these people you don't know questions and you get to know them because this is what it is. You aren't going to stir up this whole table with, I need my husband down here sitting next to me.
Honey, that is grown. That is grown. You put your big girl panties on there. And you were dazzling, okay? And you were.
But
dazzling.
I also honored myself because I let myself be pissed off for a minute.
And you honored yourself, but you didn't act a fool because you're doing your work.
No,
I love that. And so you brought it to your hubs. You told him that didn't feel very good. On the other side of that, your hubs, the secure one, was healthy enough to not be offended or take it personally that you were mad. It'd be very easy for a securely attached person in that situation to be like, oh my God, you're so sensitive.
Oh my God.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
He was able to be he was able to be
like,
hey, I clearly see that you're respectfully bringing this to my attention. We're not wired the same way, but I believe you when you tell me that you felt a little bit exposed or left down there. And because I love you, I feel bad that I put you in that situation. Moving forward, let's do that differently. Two boys that are doing their work. It didn't turn into this huge fight. You know,
do you have a coffee cup
find a
there?
keep, honey. I will be super vulnerable and say to you that there have been times when my anxious attached partner has come to me with issues in that direction. And I've just been like, oh my word, I feel like I'm always in trouble and you're so sensitive and it's a lot to deal with. That's not a healthy thing to say. That doesn't help move you forward.
No, because it makes for a person like me, it makes me feel like what's wrong with me.
Exactly.
And then I feel guilty. Then I'm nervous that I've hurt you and I'm worried about you being mad at me.
Absolutely.
But these days I have grown enough to be able to say that. And even if he was like, we were with friends, we were with, I would have held my ground and said, you asked me to go and I went and then you left me and went to the other end of the table. Listen, that doesn't work for me.
And you're not yelling or screaming. You're just telling him clearly that it didn't feel good.
I'm not saying we can't have a talk about that. But even if he had said, are you okay with me going to the other end of the table and sitting there for the next, I would have said no.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Right.
If he did it anyway,
Daddy's in trouble now.
No sex for 2 hours.
Finding the right balance between independence and togetherness in a relationship. It's a process that requires ongoing communication, deep respect, and effort from both partners. You say it's not supposed to be this easy. A lot of times relationships are easy when you're with someone you're really compatible with, but there are times that it's work when you are navigating these things together. It doesn't mean you're not compatible, but with time and practice, you can create a healthy, fulfilling, mutually respectful relationship that allows both of you to grow and thrive, live your best lives, be the best version of who you are, both separate and together. That's what we're shooting for.
Love it.
You got some prayer time for us, Reverend Silky.
You know that I do.
Lay it on us.
And this prayer is called Hot Mess Clingy and the Push Away Partner. I'm pretty sure I could be with my man 24/7. I'm the kind of person who can spend a lot of time with people. I don't need a shit ton of time alone. And I don't feel bad about it, even if salon.com tells me I should feel bad about it. They can fuck right off because we're not here for some pop culture pretend-ass Dr. Phil couples therapy. Thank you. We are all wired differently and require different amounts of time in our togetherness or our independence. When looking for a man, I searched for a social guy because that's who I am and I enjoy hanging with my partner often. Not everyone does. For me, this was step one. I chose wisely. Can I be alone and at peace with myself? Yes. When I can't, I know there's a problem. If they leave without us for an outing, meeting, or hobby, and we're not okay, there's something going on in us and we need to figure it out. Missing them is different than not knowing what to do with ourselves while they're gone. I once had no issues if the person I was in a relationship with left for the weekend or afternoon. But then someone hurt me really badly, and as a result, I became more clingy in my romantic relationship. This was a direct response to a hurt. And guess what? That hurt got its ass taken to my goddamn therapist. Or you might find togetherness to be uncomfortable. Maybe they want to connect and you struggle to let them in. Either way, don't overthink it. Down deep, whatever the sitch, we know if there's a problem because we can feel it. And we can fix the problem so long as we don't do two things. Number one, expect our partner to just deal with it and accept that this hot mess clingy or push away partner is just who we are. Or number two, have the knowledge that something is wrong within me and do nothing to fix it. Also, you don't need to know exactly how to fix it because Google, because therapy, darling. Now get your ass to a damn therapist and talk to them about wanting a secure attachment style because pushing them away when there's an issue isn't cute. And crawling into their suitcase when they're leaving for a business trip, I might have tried this, also not cute. Be cute. Be so damn cute. Amen.
Amen. Oh my.
We just want healthy relationships, right?
We just want healthy relationships. We want you to be at home within yourself and with your man.
That person across from me is not my enemy.
You're coming to them ultimately with love and respect as we both attempt to reach a place of secure attachment. That's where the good stuff starts to happen. And until next time, live in rivers of self-love.
Living in his capri pants. I'm a stowaway.
1, 2, 3, 4. That's it for us today. For more bitchy wisdom, follow How to Find and Keep a Gay Man on Instagram and TikTok at, you guessed it, How to Find and Keep a Gay Man. And until we meet again, get a therapist, don't be an asshole, protect yourself, call your mom, and remember that you deserve a meaningful love. Bye.